Shalom, family. Today I wanted to show or share some information out of a book called The Slave Trade, and it talks about um, the Portuguese who actually started the slave trade, and then thereafter other countries like France, Britain, um, and other some of the other European countries that took part in the slave trade followed after Portugal. So Portugal was the first who actually started a slave trade and started trading slaves. And they were not slaves; they were Hebrew Israelites or Jewish colonies that they went into West Africa, and they also went into the Sahara desert, which was the Sahara slave trade. So I wanted to look at two different books and maybe three maps. But I want to start off with the slave trade book because it tells us about Portugal, how they started the slave trade. So I'm reading from a chapter, and this is the book I'm reading from. It's called The Slave Trade: The Story of Atlantic Slave Trade in 1440 to 1870. And this is what I'm going to read out, just a couple of paragraphs, and then I'm going to jump to the second book, which is called Travel in North Africa. Now, this book you can download in PDF, and it's Travel to North Africa. It talks about a gentleman that did research in West Africa and also Sahara Desert. For 10 years, he documented the black Jews in Africa. His name is Nahum Slouch, and you can download this again PDF, and you can read the book there. There's a second book, and I'm not going to use that book today. It's called The Lost Tribe, a Myth, and that's by Alan H. Godbey, Godbey. Another great book that talks about the black Jews in Africa and his research. He has a lot of information. He even ties in with the scriptures and all that. Really good book too. But my focus today is just on these two books, and also this map here, which I've been using, which shows the Sahara Desert, where the Jewish colonies were. Also in the west of Africa, on the Gold Coast, Slave Coast, and the Ivory Coast. So I'm going to be using this mostly out of this book to the left, and partially the book I'm reading, The Slave Trade. So let me go ahead and start this. So I'm reading out of the book The Slave Trade, and specifically it talks about the Portuguese. And I'm looking at chapter 4. It says, the Portuguese served for setting dogs to spring the game. That's the title of the 4th chapter. And it says, the Portuguese served for setting dogs to spring the game, meaning the game of the slave trade, which as soon as they had done was seized by other European countries. This was written by a gentleman by the name of William Bosman in 1704. So it goes on to say, the event of that early summer morning in 1444 in the Algarve, when over 200 slaves were first offered to the Portuguese, had their beginning centuries before during the earliest attempt of the European people who explored Africa. In the 6th century BC, the Pharaoh Necho, which is a Nubian king, and this Nubian king, Pharaoh Necho, reigned from 610 to 595 BC. It said he sent down the Red Sea an expedition which returned. And it says 2 years later, through the Strait of the Gibraltar, Herodotus tells the story. But then it goes on to say, but there's little other evidence of such an early circumnavigation. Then it goes on to say the Carthaginians attempted a similar expedition 100 years later, but down the west coast. They sent out a large party under Hanno, one of the 2 magistrates of the state. He may have founded some colonies, and passing the river Senegal, perhaps reached through Sierra Leone, where he discovered an island full of apes, possibly female, talking about the animals there. Then it said he returned to say that he had founded a port and named it Cern, where that CERN is West Africa. That's the port he's talking about. He's locating. See how they do? They went over to this place. I'm trying not to get upset because I get a little annoyed, really annoyed. They goes over to West Africa, all over West Africa. They mark their space or their land, or whatever you want to call it, and then start naming it so they can go back and reclaim and start taking our people and taking their golds and silver and all the other stuff. It said the story was recorded in the temple of Moloch in Carthage, but the export was soon forgotten, so they kind of like forgotten about it. Then it goes on to say, after, check this out, the Persian, the Sapphists, sailed down the coast of West Africa and found, he reported, small black people with clothes made of palm leaves. No further such adventures seem to have been mounted until the 15th century. So he said he's found some people, small black people, in the CERN or west of Africa, but it didn't go any further than that. And it says no further such adventures seem to have been mounted until the 15th century. It says for these incurious generation, the assumption was that Africa was impossible to circumnavigate, since the Indian Ocean was believed to be landlocked. Some Arab journey undoubtedly were made, but it is quite unclear where they went. It was for many generations supposed that Camp Bajordo, to the south of Camp Juby, in what is now the Rio de Janeiro, was of the edge of the sea land. I'm going to drop down to another paragraph because I don't want to read too much of this. It says, goes on to say that, do I want to read this? Okay, in those days, meaning in those days of West Africa, and during the time of 1340, it says Jewish merchants in Majorca had many dealings with the trading partners in the port of North Africa. Now, these Jewish merchants, they were called Radanites. They were Romanized. They were early medieval Jewish merchants. Was going into Sahara Desert and West Africa, selling our people into slavery. Now, I believe that these merchants, Jewish merchants, were converts because they were Romanized. Since they were Romanized, I want to do my research on it. Then it goes on to say, it would be remembered had more that these Jews, it says those Jews, it would be remembered, had more freedom, these are the real Jews, to move about in the Arab or the Sahara slave trade world than their Christian counterparts. And when it says Christian counterpart, I'm thinking about the transatlantic slave trade. It says they were goldsmith. These Jews were goldsmith and thieves, and some Jewish colonies were established still further south, even in the oasis of Sahara. And we look right here. The Sahara right here. Talking about the Jewish colonies here in Africa, the Sahara Desert. And this was mainly probably from the Sahara slave trade. Also, they're in West Africa as well. So they're in both places. It was in West Africa as well as Sahara Desert as well. And it goes on to say that was further south, even in the oasis of the Sahara, their members sometimes marrying local Berbers or Negroes, such as the Fulanis in Senegambia. See, they call us Negroes, blacks, they call us, oh, it just is sickening. Anyway, Senegambia is right here. Senegambia. It says their members also, sometimes some of the Jews married also Berbers or blacks, such as the Fulani in Senegambia. There were some Catalan merchants and Sultanate and so forth. So I'm going to stop right there. Do I want to read this? Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and read this, and I'm going to go into the next book. It says, much information, therefore, became available in Spain, and the famous cartographer Majorco put it to good use. So Angelino Doser, probably of Palma, was in 1339 able to design a sea chart which gave accurate pride of place to an African monarch, Mansa Musa of Mali, known for his wealth and for that extravagant Hajj of 1324, of which mention has been made. Now we know what's going on in Mali today, so they've been just digging into our resources. I mean, way back, y'all, talking about 1300s, 1200s. They've been doing this for a long time. Do I want to read this? So I'm going to go ahead and leave that at that. This was just a couple of small paragraphs from the book, The Slave Trade. And I purchased this book at a bookstore. So I'm just starting to look through it, but also the information I'm finding in this book is also in this book that's written by Nahum Slouch, which was a Jew, and did his research. So I'm gonna start with this next, and then I'm gonna go on over to the let me see, because there was a map in here too. Yeah, they also had a Portuguese discovery in the late 1500s, 15th century, when they were taking our people. So they even drew maps. They mapped this out. I mean, just it's like 9 maps in this book, how they mapped out how they went over to Africa, North Africa and West Africa, and was taking our people by the thousands. So I wanted to share this book today, again called Traveling North Africa by Nahum Slouch. And I want to read from his book. I think a couple of times I showed this map along with some maps in West Africa and pairing them up, and a couple of videos I did prior to today. But I just want to read out of this book a couple of paragraphs. But I want to first do a forward. I want you to read what he says before he starts his 10 years journey to find the what he called the black Jews of Africa. He says, I was struck by the great importance of the problem of the ethnic and historic origin of the various groups of the African Jews. Little attention had been paid to this problem, but I saw that the study of the question might well throw new light on the origin and history of Judaism throughout the whole Mediterranean basin. On taking into consideration the conclusion reached by general African research, I realized that the special condition peculiar to Africa and the scarcity of the documents was sufficient to discourage the most zealous historical adventurer. I saw that only one course was open to me: to follow the example of all historians of Africa and to undertake a series of voyages across North Africa, visiting in person localities of historical interest and collecting historical evidence, both documentary and traditional, touching on the life and custom of the Jews. Then he goes on to say that he wants to reassure you that those who read this book, it says, however, the readers of this volume may rest assured that it is not a labyrinth of ideals or thesis which I have presented to them, but a clear and distinct exposition of the results of 10 years of study and researching, of wandering and observation among the unknown Jews of Africa. The conclusion to which the facts set forth in this book has led me, as well as the present state of the known cities of Africa, would be treated in a volume devoted to the history of Jewish civilization in Africa. So let's go. I jumped to 344. I probably should have took you to another, but I'm gonna go ahead and just briefly show a couple of things. I just want to share his finding with this map over here. Now the map to the right is not a map out of his book. This map is a map out of the book called The Lost Tribe of Myth. And the author of that book is Alan H. Godbey, Godbey, and you can also download this book as well. And it has this map in that particular book. So anyways, I'm going to go here and read over here. It says, Because we're going to talk about the, this is more of the Sahara, this page right here. It talks about other parts of Africa too, but I'm going to go ahead and show what he has in Sahara. It says, and it is not at all surprising to encounter in every part of the desert trace and even survivals of a primitive Judaism, which at one time played an important role in the whole region of the Sahara, from Senegal. And I'm going to show you another map. This is Sahara. This is a map of the Sahara trade, and it talks about Senegal, and Senegal is located right down here somewhere. Where's Senegal? Right here, Senegal. It says here, Sahara, and this is Sahara because it's a Sahara desert map. We have Timbuktu, we have Senegal, we have Gambia. Wadan is Wada, Judah, Ida, and this is West Africa, because I was looking at my other book, and they gave that West Africa port what they call Judah. They changed that so many times, the name. Then they have Benin, the River Niger, the Ashanti, Elena. I wonder if that's the Elamites, because it did says that when they travel through to get to India, they had to go through West Africa. So that's a connection. The map is a connection to India as well. I just want to show you the that map that says Senegal here, where he says here. I was trying to highlight this, but it won't allow me to highlight it, so I'm trying to be careful as I read. Yeah, region of the Sahara from Senegal to the very borders of Somaliland, and which even in our day has been a help in the French occupation. So French been in Africa's business since the 1200s. But they didn't really start doing anything until I think the 1700s, 1600s, probably late 1500s. It says the oral tradition, which are oral Jewish tradition in the Sahara Desert, in these areas of Senegal, Somaliland, which Senegambia had to be involved too. It said the oral tradition, or the Jewish oral tradition, which are everywhere found concerning the early Jewish history of this country, and beginning to find confirmation in Arab writing and even in inscription of the Jewish origin. We are beginning to learn now of a great migration in the time of Muhammad, or even before, in the famous year of the elephant. And see, I'm going to take you to the here, the elephant. Let's see, where is it? I know it's here. I think it might be over here. Oh, come on, I know it's here. I still have familiarized myself with this map, but the elephant, I remember seeing it up this way. Here. It's in this area too. Right here, elephantite. This is where it's in the 606 BC. So he's saying that the elephant, many Jews were forced into Arabia. We are told of the Yehud caliber. So in this is, he says here, they were forced into Arabia. And here's the elephant here, and this is the Libyan desert, and right up below it is the right over here is the Arabia, right here, Arabia desert right here, Arabia. This is where they were forced into, these Jews of the Elephantine or Jewish garrison of 606 BC. So this matched this map. It says, elephant, many Jews were forced into Arabia. We are told of the Yehud, Shabar, the Reka. I guess I'm butchering these names, but I'm trying. A tribe of shepherds and agriculturists, intrepid horsemen who, oops, I don't want to mess that up, who at one time camped on the shores of Red Sea and who finally crossed the Sudan. And we know that's the Sahara Desert, Sudan. To them, the Moorish native, as well as the Arabs and Negroes, talking about Jews, attribute the. I say I don't know why we're all the same people, but they just separating the names. It's just, I guess they separated because of the areas. The Sahara, where Arab is the Sahara. They call it from Negro to Black. I'm just so sick of those names. Arabs and Negroes attributes the founding of the first empires, the erection of the first public building in the country, the construction of the first canal and irrigation system, and the institution of a social and economic regime which still survives in all Saharan communities, Jewish communities. It says the Jewish epic says Mr. Martin, a learned French explorer and traveler, was the golden age of the Corsairs of the desert. For many years, the author of this book has been gathering material for a history of the Jewish migrations into the Sahara and the Sudan. So migrated from what? They migrated more than likely from Israel. I'm going to show you. Because up in the right-hand corner of this it says Israel immigrant here 1100 to 700 BC. Immigrant. So they had to migrate from somewhere, and I'm assuming it's talking about this area here. Migration into the Sahara and Sudan. So they right here, migrated down to Arabia, Sahara, the Elephantine, Libya desert. And this is the Sahara Desert. This is where they migrated into the Sahara Desert. It says into the Sahara and Sudan. One part of his work is already done, the establishing of the authenticity of these migration. The material at this disposal will clear up many problems of the history of the Jews during the Middle Ages. To the writings of the Arab and the oral tradition of the country, he can now add the archaeological evidence furnished by the ruins of the ancient Jewish cities in the Sahara and the Sudan. Ancient, you all. Ancient. I mean, they were there way before the Sahara Desert. Sahara slave trade, way before the transatlantic slave trade. Our people was there already, still living there and practicing the culture of the ancient Hebrew forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We're there, and we descended from those in this area that was brought from West Africa over here because they knew exactly who they were going over there to get. They knew the land was rich, and they knew the people was even richer. So it's like they went there for gold, but when they found the people, they said, oh, this is better. This is better than gold. So that's why they started taking us about 1,000 till today. They're still enslaving us and oppressing us and making money off of us, capitalizing on us like they've been doing for the last several hundred years. It says, then it goes on to say, Jewish cities in the Sahara and the Sudan, and the documentary evidence of the Hebrew inscriptions like those of Tuwa, which dated from the 13th and the 14th century. 13th, 14th century. Did I just read something out of this? Oh, what did I do with my book? I read something out of this book here. 13th century. Our people was there. 14th century. And who started that during those centuries? The earliest one that started was the Portuguese. They were the one that started off the slave trade. They was the very first ones that took slaves, took our people, our Jewish or Hebrew Israelites, or the Israelites, God's chosen people. It says, first 14th century. As the writer has learned, however, from experience, that even secondary sources should never be neglected. It is his purpose here to set on one side the material he has collected on the history of the Jews in the Sahara, and to devote himself to a description of those Jewish groups scattered on the borders of this desert, which he has has been able to visit and study at firsthand. So talking about the deserts. So we're talking about Sahara Desert. We're talking about even Algeria. We're talking about what they call the Tripoli. And he has a whole chapter on the Tripoli or tribal Jew tradition here. See right here? It has here that tradition of Jewish garrison. You have where here it says black Jews, and then you have the Berber Jews, black Jews. I don't know what it keeps, black, Berber. We're all the same people, but they kept on just dividing the names. I don't get that. Well, yes, I do, just to hide or confuse you. That's the Sahara Desert there. These are the area this book is talking about. It's also talking about Libya. I think Libya is I think this way somewhere. To those kidneys. I hope you all are able to see, because I enlarged it, so when I upload this you can see the map. Libyan right here, Libyan Desert. It says Libyan Desert. I can't read that across that map line, but it's thus Isaiah time. This is during the Isaiah time right here. See what it says here? The Abydos Jews, Persian period. Hermopolis Uism 700b. The Elephantine, which he said up here, talks about it over here in the book I just read, during 600 BC. But this is interesting right here. Oxymarchus. I'm trying to read that across that line. And this, I'm sure this says Isaiah time, during Isaiah time. So let me tell you this before I go on to the reading. In the book called The Lost Tribal Myth, and when it talks about these, the time frame that is given, more than likely, I haven't started reading that book yet, but more than likely he's going to be able to give you the time frame and everything, give more, and go in more into detail regarding these red markings and the period, as well as the different areas and the Jewish colonies and practices. Because I'm interested to know. I think when I get off this video, I'm going to go ahead and look at the part where he mentioned Isaiah time. I'm going to look into that. So let me go here, continue to read. I need to mark my spot. Hebrew inscription 2. Okay, it says, the writing has learned, however, from experience, that even secondary sources should never be neglected. Of course, it is his purpose here to set on one time the material he has collected on the history of the Jews in Sahara, and to devote himself to a description of these Jewish groups scattered on the border of the desert, which he has been able to visit and study at first hand. It says, among the Jews of the Sahara, we will mention first those of the oasis of Tunis, the Jews of Tozar, and that find mention in the Roman text. They even wrote, see, let's say they documented this. This stuff is documented, but the thing is, they have put us in all different books. So they're pretty much counting on us as a people not to study, not to research and read. So it's a good thing that they had that mentality that we'll never find out, but we don't read, so they'll never find out who they are. Well, wrong. It says the Jews of Tozor, I hope I mentioned that correctly, find mention in a Roman text. In Median and at Matnata, the Jews lived in ghettos cut in the rocks and have a number of very ancient fortresses. Where are we today? Where are we majority at? All across the four corners of the earth. Are we not in? You want to find us? Find us in the ghettos. They have not changed. They were crafty and still crafty today. My God, it has to be a evil spirit to be able to teach people with wicked hearts to hide a people, to destroy a people, to try to rewrite a people history and their culture, and just erase them, literally erase them physically, mentally, historically, and archaeology, biblical and history wise. They're trying to erase God's people. And they figure by, well, let me put it this way, they scatter us, but actually the Most High scattered us to save us. I really believe that. He did. He scattered us to save us. So when he come back, you know exactly where he said where he had scattered us, he will regather us back. And you find that especially the new covenant, the eternal covenant that he's going to make with us is in Ezekiel 37. That whole chapter talks about him restoring the northern southern kingdom, the house of Judah, the house of Israel, bring them back together in his hand. He's going to make them one nation again. And then how they will go on to serve him and call him their God. He called them his people, and that his sanctuary would be among his people forever, everlasting. So that's the new kingdom. So it says, in the ghettos, cut in the rock, and have a number of very ancient fortress before the 11th century. The Medmata was an entirely Jewish tribe in the Sahara. And they ain't talking about no Caucasian people. We're talking about God's people in Africa, our ancestors as well, because that's where most of us come from. Is West Africa, Morocco, Benin, Algeria, Gambia, Dahomey, from on the coast of the Slave Coast, Ivory Coast, and the Gold Coast, then all the way up to the Sahara when they took us in the Sahara area. And this is what he's talking about, the Sahara area. So that's the scattering that the Most High did at the end, that last scattering. It says, but it is among the oases of Algeria of the curse. Now Algeria, I just showed you Algeria. I think it was up this way. I'm going to try to learn this map a little better before I start showing it again. That's Egypt, so Algeria must be up in here somewhere. Come on. I know I seen Algeria. Here, right here. Algeria, right here. Algeria. And that is where, that's, yeah, Algeria. Algeria. Let me see if I can find, it says the curse. CK, where's that up in here? I'm pretty sure of it. They have a lot of these, the names here of the different tribes. I will call them, that's what they call them, tribe, because that's the name. Their name is everything. And but some of this is kind of so close together you can barely understand it. And then you have the map where they did the black lining and where they were drawing the maps, and some of the writings is over the drawing of the maps. But anyway, it talks about the Algeria, and this is Algeria right here. And it talks about the curse of the Sahara, and curse of the Sahara in Algeria, and this would be the Sahara right here. Sahara right here. He's speaking of the Sahara right here. This is where they found Jews. The Benizit Terrego, I know what that is. But I'm still trying to study this map. I'm going to try to get more familiarized with it, so when I can point something out of the books that I'm reading, I can go to them and immediately and not have to struggle trying to find those spots. But anyway, it's talking about Sahara Desert. This is Sahara Desert. Kanuri tribe. It says that the Jews have left the most distinct trace, not only Arab, but also Jewish authors of the 10th century speak of the existence of Jewish groups, no doubt anonymous to the south of Fez, among other Abraham, Ibn Ezra, speak as follow of the historical Jews of Wargla. Exodus 12:2. Let's go to Exodus 12:2. Now I'm just kind of like freestyling right now. I don't know what I'm gonna find. But I do want to go to Exodus chapter 12. Oh my goodness, what did I just do? This just. Oh, oh, it's on the Exodus. I'm sorry, y'all. Like I said, I didn't include this. I'm just freestyling right now. Exodus chapter 12. Hmm. I don't think. I think it's talking about the. I think it's talking about the chapter. Exodus the chapter. So Exodus chapter 2. Um, okay, so I won't go there because I don't think I think it's talking about the chapters. I don't have time for that. But anyway, it says that among other Abraham, Ibn Ezra speak as follows of the historical Jews of Wargla. Exodus 12 2, second commentary. It says the heretic of Wargla celebrated their Passover in the following fashion. These misled people all leave their country on the 15th of Nisan to celebrate the festival in the desert, as did the Israelite under Moses. Okay, it's talking about the tribe here, south of the Jewish group. These Jewish black Jews, um, no doubt anonymously to the south of Fees, among others, Abraham, Ibn Ezra speak as follow of this heretical Jews of Wargla. Let me go and see if I can see it, because if it's over here, Sahara, I should be able to find that. Although this map is not in his book, it's still adding up some of the stuff that he's talking about. I can find it on here, but just for a moment, y'all, let me just play with it for just a second, because I'm like some freestyling right now. I don't know what I'm gonna find. So let's go back to the Sahara, and I'm looking for the Wagla. I'll probably find that later. I hope not. It'd be nice if I can find that. Or maybe Alan Gogby didn't put it on the Waglas on here. But anyway, it's talking about the Sahara Desert. We know that. It says that they celebrated their Passover in the following fashion. These misled people all leave their country on the 15th of Nisan to celebrate the festival in the desert, as did the Israelite under Moses. And to be honest, chapter 12 really talks about the celebration. It says, and the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of the month, ye shall be the first month of the year. Speak unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, In the 10th day of this month they shall take to them every man a lamb according to the house of their fathers, and lamb for the house. So chapter 12, he's saying that these people, these black Jews of Sahara Desert, was keeping festivals. And he's quoting Exodus chapter 12. So basically what he's saying is that these Jews, black African Jews that he found in the Sahara Desert surrounding, that they were literally keeping the festivals mentioned in Exodus chapter 12. Goes on to say, 15th of Nisan, to celebrate the festival in the desert, as did the Israelites under Moses. These Jews are mentioned as heretics by various rabbis until the 16th century. Of course, you had converts, trying to dismiss this, because remember at the beginning of the book, he was saying that it wasn't being sought out, the black Jews. And then that's why he took it upon himself, and he did a research and traveled throughout North Africa for 10 years, There was in between where he had to stop because he became ill, but as soon as he got his strength back, he went back. Praise God for this man that's telling the truth. It says further, Jews are mentioned various until the 16th century, further towards the south and across Tukort, where Jewish community were still in existence in the 15th century. Again, this area here too is talking about the Sahara Desert. This book is talking about all parts of North Africa. Sahara Desert. During the 15th century and 16th century. It says, further towards the south, across Tukort, where Jewish communities were still in existence in the 15th century, there were conversions and persecution. Conversion means they had to convert over just to survive, and they were persecuted for those who didn't want to convert over. It says, two groups of the desert still retain their Jewish consciousness of the Mahajar, a settled population of Jewish origins who are found at Turgot and Tuak and the Dagaton, a powerful tribe of Islamized Bedouin who camped on the route from Timbuktu to the Sudan. So here it is, Timbuktu. Okay, so it says, I want to try to find some of these because I see Tagarton, Tuat, and I think I remember, y'all. I'm just like I'm saying, I'm kind of like freestyling right now, so I'm just looking at different areas. Maybe I want to get too far off the subject of the book, so I won't do that. But anyway, we know that it's in the Sahara Desert. And we know Islamic was also, that's the Sahara Desert, the Sahara slave trade, which includes the Islamic. So there was Islamized, Bedouin, who camped on the route from Timbuktu to the Sudan. These are Jewish groups of Jews, black Jews. Timbuktu. We know Timbuktu is spelled Timbuktu, but Timbuktu, like two, to the Sudan. It says the Republic of the Jews of Tuat. I have distinct proof on this subject. It says it was destroyed between 1492 and 1510, but the descendants of these Republicans still played an important part of Tiflis in the Figi and in the Mazad. At Tiflis, they still remember the times when parents ate supper used to recite to their children. Next year, at Timanum, Tuat, that ancient promised land of the Jews of Sahara, today the Jews of the Oasis number some 15,000. So I think I'm going to stop here because I want to again look at this map some more and probably go into this book. But I came on here for this really to show you and encourage you to get this book and download it, and you can get on PDF, Travel in North Africa. Then go and also download the book, The Tribe, A Myth, and then you'll find this map in his book, which is by Alan H. Godby. This book to the left is by Nahum Slouch, which was a Jew. So I'm going to ahead and stop here. I don't know how long I've did this little. I didn't want to take a whole lot of time, so I need to stop because I have other stuff I need to do. But I'm going to continue on the next, on some more of this, on different areas in North Africa. But this is talking about the Sahara, the Khazars of Sahara, not Khazars. Not talking about no Khazars, talking about African tribes with an African Jewish tribe. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and end this, and I say shalom everyone, and have a blessed evening.